Anxious to step through the gate again, Major?
Yes, I am.
We all are.
Would you like us to bring back anything special?
No thanks.
Groceries, new outfit, flatware?
No, just yourselves in one piece, please. Dial it up. Be safe.
Welcome to the Jumping Puddles podcast. Be sure to listen to us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and or YouTube. And follow us at Jumping Puddles Podcast on Tumblr and Instagram, and Jumping Pud Pod on Twitter. Hi, I'm American Sam, and with me are my fellow co-hosts, Tor and Ash.
Hey!
Hi!
And this week, we watched The Gift.
Dun dun dun!
Dun dun! That's pretty good. That's pretty good.
Yeah. We have a Teyla episode.
Yay!
Ah,
And it's a good one, actually. Ooh.
it's so good. It's so good.
I mean,
You're gonna have some not so good ones later on, but at least this one.
top tier. And right off the bat, too, I love the cold open of everyone's nightly routine. Of course, Rodney is the only one mainlining coffee and not sleeping. I also found it really funny that John was sleeping in full-on black long sleeves. It's very telling of his repressed nature, or the fact that he's afraid that he's going to get called to active duty in the middle of the night, pantless and or shirtless, and so just sleeps in his clothes. I have no idea which.
I love him. He's so dumb. He's so silly. What was the weather like? Like, I wonder. Like, you know, like, was it hot? Was it cold? Did he always wear long sleeves no matter what the weather was like? Just in case, yeah, what if he was attacked? But now I'm thinking, okay, sorry, not to... Damn, we're already overanalyzing 3 seconds in. You know, it's gonna be a fucking good-ass episode. But, no, just saying, I wonder if it was sort of like a sign of how uneasy he was, especially because the Wraith were getting closer. Like, maybe he just, like, kept wearing long sleeves, and then maybe over time, you know, by the time we get to the shrine, because we know he's in a little funky panda shirt in the shrine.
PJ!
So maybe it was something that, yeah, his little, like, bottoms, too, like, maybe it was just, like, over time, like, he was just so genuinely stressed out, genuinely worried for his life in the beginning, that he was like, I can't bust out the funky panda shirt until I'm safe. And then maybe eventually he felt safe.
He didn't want to show up in the gate room in his pajamas. That's so funny.
Let us see his t-shirt collection. I need to know.
Please.
He definitely has a few nerd shirts. Like, he already has a poster of Johnny Cash. Maybe he has a t-shirt too.
Oh my god, yeah. Okay. He has a Han Solo t-shirt.
Oh!
Yes, definitely. Oh gosh.
Something cheesy like Han shot first or some shit. Like,
Speaking about the opening, I always forget that when we get to Teyla that we have like a dream inside a dream. And I've watched this episode a lot. Like, not a lot, but I've watched it more than other episodes, especially since I started shipping Teyla Beth. Sorry, I had to put it in there.
please.
And every time I watch it, every time I forget that we see a dream inside a dream, and every time I wonder why she's going to John when she's like in distress. And I don't think that's just because I don't think that's just because I don't ship them, but also I don't really understand. It never seemed to me that they had that kind of relationship that she would just show up at his doorstep at 3 a.m. To tell him about the bad dreams she had or whatever is going on with her. Do you think she would go if she was really stressed out that John would be the first person she would go to?
My thing with that is that's a really good question. I think personally I've always viewed John as the the rock of the team and the solidity. I feel like they show it. It's kind of early days still for this to be happening, but later on down the line, I feel like all the members of his team sort of think of him first and like he'll fix it, or like I feel like he's the safe place in quotations. I think we see that a lot in the Shrine too, but I don't think he's well equipped to be that person in terms of like emotional. Like he's great if you need that guy to be like, yo, it's all good, we're cool, like let's not think about these things, like bad things that are bothering us for a while, and not the sort of guy who would like talk about something that's bothering you head on. Does that make any sense?
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, no, I 100% agree. Because I think, or how I kind of interpreted it was that Teyla kind of like still thought like the Wraith was around. I feel like that would make sense, or that's how I rationalized it, that she would go to John. She'd be like, hey, let me go to like the military official of like the base and like get him to help me out, you know? But I feel like if it was like more of like I'm having a bad dream, I don't think she would go to John for that.
Yeah.
Like I honestly, I think she would go to like Elizabeth, like, you know, maybe even, I mean, at this point she hasn't met Kate, but if, you know, she had met Kate, I'm sure she would have gone to Kate. And I feel like, I don't know, maybe it's just me being a Teyla and Rodney stan, but I like to think she'd go to Rodney too before John, genuinely.
Maybe because she knows that he's still awake.
Exactly.
Yeah. They can talk about their like trauma together. That sounds so like, but they can bond because they both go to therapy. Yeah, so that's how I kind of interpreted it. Because I wrote down that I honestly love that Teyla went to John. Because again, like as like the military guy, I like that she was like, let me go alert this man, let me go wake this man up. And I don't know, I think, you know, we kind of dragged them a little bit last episode because they were just fighting. Like it was like a good fight, but they were like just beefing that entire episode. But I think some of that kind of continues into this episode. But I think fundamentally, I love their bond without like the context of romance. Like I think, I don't know, they can both be like, I think Teyla wants to be that person for John kind of sometimes that he can kind of rely on more. But I think, you know, like I feel like they both have very similar, like, I'm the leader, I should be the only strong one. And so I don't know, I feel like they have a lot in common. So I love all we get from their bond, and I just wish it wasn't played for romance.
I love that. I actually love that, and it helps me not be so annoyed by that scene.
No, but she definitely would have gone to, like, literally, even Ford, like, literally everyone else on the base except for John, if it was, like bad dreams. Like, she'd go to Radek. She'd go to Chuck. Okay, like...
Chuck, my man!
Yeah, and building on what you said, Sam, because it was about the Wraith, I feel like this episode kind of brings it up again to John trusts her sort of implicitly, whereas other military personnel and people on the base are sort of sus of her, or were sus of her. And so I think maybe that left like a bad taste in her mouth. So yeah, she's going to go directly to the guy she knows is going to listen to her to report something like that. He didn't handle it the best way, personally, but we'll talk about that.
Yeah, I'm like, I was thinking about that. I was like, we're praising him so much. And I was like, and then he went and did a stupid thing. So he did many a dumb thing this episode, I think.
Mm-hmm.
So let's not praise him too much. We'll get back to all that.
But I do love the shots of her room. I feel like her room has the most personality so far. Like the Athosian, I'm assuming like Athosian quilts and stuff. It's just pretty. The curtains.
Yeah. She really made herself a home there. And I really love... I feel like even more than the rest of the team. Maybe not John. Well, we don't see a lot of like quarters in this show. Do we ever see Rodney's quarters?
Yep.
Do we?
In Duet.
Oh, okay. Right, okay.
Right. Yeah, his are As in him and John, or I think, okay, no, let me take it back. I think Rodney is honestly the least decorated. And then, I mean, we feel like we get a 2-second clip of Ford, so I have no idea. But I also feel like he would not have anything up, really. But I feel like maybe, like, Ronan kind of tied with Rodney for least decorated place. I feel like Ronan just had, like, one painting, right? We see Ronan's room just, like, one giant war painting. And that's it.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think he even could fit on his bed. His bed looks so tiny compared to him.
It did.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
Like, I'm sure he just, like, I feel like he never went in there. I feel like he's the type of guy to just be like, I'm gonna crash on this couch. Like, waking up in 5 hours when I have a meeting to brief or something. And then I feel like it goes John, because obviously he got, like, his posters and stuff. But it's still very, like, standard, ugly. Atlantis room. And then it's Teyla.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Queen.
Did we ever see Elizabeth's?
Very
we
briefly.
do, but I think it's when she's packing, so we don't really see a lot.
Okay. No, I'm just saying, I feel like her and, like, Rats, because I think her and Teyla would have, like, the prettiest rooms.
Absolutely. I feel like her room would be a bit like her office, with like statues and stuff she collected. Or this is so random, but I just okay. My thought process was, okay, maybe she has paintings, maybe paintings from Lorne or Ronan, and then I thought about in the game when we have these huge paintings of Rodney, and what if somebody took one of those paintings back and maybe gave it to her? I don't know. And she it's in someone's room. Someone has like this hugest painting portrait of Rodney in their room. It would be hilarious.
I'm about to cry. That is beautiful. That is now canon. Thank you so much, Ash. I need it so badly in my life. And like people just walk in and they'll just see a giant poster of Rodney. Like
Zelenka uses it as a dartboard.
No, I was also gonna say too, I feel like people like took that picture and they like copied it and like they made it into like a meme. They wrote words on it, you know, like and they just posted it all over Atlantis. And Rodney's like, oh my god, he's like, John, help me take down this one. And John's like, no, I made that one. That one's funny. Like just some shit like that.
It's the most used meme template on Atlantis.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, Atlantis Twitter is like, yeah, every other post is just them using that meme.
It's everyone's profile picture.
Oh my god, maybe it's during Rodney's birthday month as a birthday thing that also like as a way to like tease him but also say happy birthday. Like, oh.
They get like his face, like the picture monogrammed on paper plates and on the cake. You know how you can get photos on cakes?
I'm gonna throw up. I need this so badly. This is amazing. Speaking of Elizabeth and Rodney. Again, we feel like we get some good crumbs this episode. Some great, like, I'll take anything at this point. And so I love that little scene. There's some really just great scenes in general. I really forgot how many like just little details are in this episode that just make it so good. But like that one scene where she walks in on Rodney in his lab and then she just like takes over the computer. She's like, all right, I'm gonna do Ancient now. And it's so cute.
Oh, I love that one. It shows. I love that they used her capabilities a bit in this episode, and she's so fascinated too, right? She goes in here and she's not even listening to what Rodney is talking at that point. She says, "Oh yeah, let me do this," and she's so focused immediately, and then I love that for her. She gets something to do that's something else than paperwork and sending people out and worrying about them all the time.
Watch out, Daniel Jackson. Elizabeth's coming for your crown.
I'm so happy that like they made like Elizabeth the person that can like read ancient, like I feel like it just adds, especially because like her whole fascination with the ancients and stuff, it just adds such another like an extra layer that she understands their language, and she's probably like right after. Honestly, how good is Daniel at ancient? Because I feel like Elizabeth could be tied with him for maybe like most knowledgeable about the ancient language, especially because her time on Atlantis. Like I'm sure she probably like just leaps and bounds ahead of the man while he's like stuck dealing with the Ori. But yeah, no, seriously, watch out, Daniel, because they're neck and neck for top ancient stan.
She translated it so fast too, like what overnight,
Right?
and she
That
was the
girl
one who
didn't
cracked
sleep.
the code. Like this episode, basically, like she was the reason they found out what all this stuff was about, like the whole Wraith research, like everything.
Is it in this episode where she also like she translates ancient but also Wraith language to both? Yeah. So good that woman saw this language and she just goes, yeah, no, I got this. That's insane. I mean, the linguistic mind behind that. It's
Yeah, yeah. There's jumping around back to the beginning, just some highlighting the good Rodney and Elizabeth moments. There's that one where no, they're just basically like talking in front of everyone. And she has to be like, Rodney, like he's kind of like it's not just like getting him to like stay on topic with Zelenka. And Rodney just like jumps back in. He's like, oh right, okay, back on topic. And it's just so cute. Like I just love little moments where all she has to say is like, we get back to focus or something like that, and Ronnie just was like, oh yeah, flips the brain back. Gonna tell you about this. Like, it's just so cute. And like his respect for her is just unquestionable. Like I honestly think he has, he respects her the most, honestly, out of everyone in the team, I think. Maybe besides Teyla, I feel like they have the most respect for Elizabeth. John, I love you. He's messing up sometimes. He's a little fuck up. No, but like Rodney would never. When have we ever seen Rodney disobey Elizabeth? Like the only time he did is when she was not there to say no with the nanites that he put into her.
Yeah, he'll disobey John all day, no problem.
Literally. But Elizabeth puts her foot down and he's like, all right, she said so. Gotta listen over here. Like, what can I do? Like, my hands are tied. Like,
actually, that reminds me of the scene later on in the episode between them where she's like working on the translation and him and John come in the room and she like holds up her finger to like be like, wait. And Rodney gets upset because she gave him the finger, and I'm like, Rodney, that is something you would do to them. And I just thought it was so funny that they were like switching mannerisms. So cute.
oh
I'm just screaming, oh my gosh. They're so cute.
He thinks they're spending too much time together.
I would love it if... Where's my body switch episode? On Atlantis.
Yes.
Elizabeth gets... Or, like, maybe, like, it has to be, like, a secret for some reason. Or they're both, like, too embarrassed. So, like, no, we have to keep it a secret. So, like, Elizabeth has to, like, pretend to be Rodney in Rodney's body. And Rodney has to pretend to be Elizabeth.
Oh, some Freaky Friday
That would be
shenanigans.
so bad.
It would be horrible.
But Rodney as leader of Atlantis is... Shit.
Like, as soon as he's, like... Once he gets over, like, the freakiness, he's like, okay. He's like, I'm gonna do this. He's like, are we changing this? And John's like, Elizabeth, are you okay? And Elizabeth and Rodney's body is like, yeah, Rodney, are you okay? You can't change this. And Rodney's like, no, I'm doing fine. Like, I just feel like I'm inspired. I took some of your advice, Rodney, and, like, I'm gonna change the entire base.
No, but he would do that. I was more like thinking that when people come to him to ask for something or just and he would be so confused and so he would mess up so bad, and to that point where Elizabeth and Rodney's body would just stay at his side the whole time and just like saying, so you're going to do this now, right? And I think the best decision would be to do that and just kind of try to guide him through that. But oh, he would be so lost.
Amazing. 10 out of 10. Because I can't stop picturing now, like, people just walking into his, like, Elizabeth's office and just being like, hey, I need help. And he's like, what? He's like, well, get out. He's so used to just telling his son, he's like, get out. And they're like, Dr. Weir? He's like, oh, yeah, no, take a seat.
Oh, gosh.
And he's like, what do you need me for? And they're like, no, we need you to do this. And he's like, can I get some sleep? Like, he's like, oh my god, how does Elizabeth live? And she's so nice to all the scientists. She brings them, like, donuts or some shit, like, from the cafeteria. And they're like, he's been brainwashed. They're like, something's wrong.
All the scientists think Rodney's dying. They're like, he's on his way out. There's no way he'd be this nice.
They start like an investigation of what's happening, and they try to listen to or sneak into like the infirmary database to like get his last checkup.
I feel like it'd be so funny too if like the most random person figured it out. Like Ronan was the first one to figure it out.
Yeah.
Ronan for sure. Like he like I don't know. I feel like it'd be Rodney to give it up, or Elizabeth. Maybe it'd be funny if Elizabeth gave it up first. Like he just like walked in on like Rodney's room, or like Elizabeth's like I don't know. She's doing some like actually sleeping or like painting, and he's like Rodney. Some bullshit like that.
I'm having so many thoughts.
Alternatively, what if Elizabeth and Teyla were in like a secret relationship, and so like Rodney finds out because he's in the squad, and he's like, oh shit, wait,
oh fuck,
yeah,
yes, oh that's how he finds out.
He was like, how's your day? How was your day, sweetheart? Or like something like that. Like trying to hold his hand, and he's just like, what? He's really like, what? Elizabeth's like, oh shit, I didn't tell Rodney, and like runs to their room and like bangs on the door like, Elizabeth, I need you right now. I need you.
Oh, but that is amazing because Rodney is the worst at keeping secrets.
Exactly. Exactly.
Oh my, okay. Sorry. One last thing to add on this little entire AU we created. I think it'd be so funny too if like John was like on the brink of finally confessing his feelings or something.
Oh no!
And then like you get Elizabeth and Rodney's body trying to deal with that too. So they're both like, "You're dating who?" They like meet up in the middle of like Atlantis. They're like, "Who are you dating?" It was like, it was a secret. Wait, mine's a secret. Okay, we're both gonna keep it a secret. I mean, anyways, that was great. I love them. Elizabeth and Rodney besties.
Hell yes. Speaking of secrets, John is terrible at keeping them.
He's so silly.
How do we feel about that conversation in general and what John did?
John, what the fuck are you doing? I think what he meant well in what he did. He was worried about a member of his team, and he tried to fix it somehow, but by doing that, he just completely abused her trust in him. What he could have done is talk to her about that, and that he thinks, hey, maybe she should talk to somebody that's not him, because he's not good with that stuff. And he's not a professional. But yeah, the way he did it, it's just not good.
Yeah, you can really tell he did not think this is a big deal. Like, he was like, I told Heightmeyer, and she's like, what did you do that for? She's like fully snapping at him, and he's like, girl, you just needed mental help. And she's like, no, like, I came to you as a friend. And I think it's really interesting that, like, they can kind of have that divide, especially in season 1, you know, where, like, she came to him as a friend, and he did not. That just completely flew over his head. He was like, oh, she's telling me. And he's like, oh, okay, like, I'm just gonna go tell Heightmeyer to get her, to help her out. And it's like, no, John, you're missing the point. So I think it would have been really interesting to see more of that, like, how do they deal with that divide, Like, do they have to say, like, hey, I'm coming to you as a friend? Or, like, hey, I'm coming to you as, like, the military, like, like, I need your help with this. Or turn off your military brain for a second, I need John the friend. But yeah, no, he was in the wrong for that. And surprised Teyla didn't whip out her sticks and start beating him with it.
Oh, I love that you said that. Like, you were like, John the friend versus John the military leader. Because, it's so true. And I feel like it's a common thread in the show. I wish it was more of a thing. But yeah, I think he was thinking with the wrong brain during their conversation. Like, what he should have done, like you were saying, Ash was been like, oh, like, there's this lady on base. Her name is Kate. Like, she talks to people through this stuff. Like, maybe she can help you. I don't know if you're willing to go. Like, if it's your choice to go and talk to her if you want to. Like, this is the stuff that she does. Because I know, like, Teyla, coming from Athos, like, I don't know if they have such things in her culture. Like, there's a cultural difference there, I understand. But instead, I feel like he was thinking with his military brain where, he's a leader of the team and, like, one person is not sleeping, so they're not functioning well. Like, they're not physically on their game and, they can't come on mission. So, like, let's go over their head and fix it instead of putting it in her hands and giving her the autonomy to make that choice on her own. So, yeah, that sucked. Also, I don't think he realizes the position that she's in or that he's in where, like, he doesn't understand why people wouldn't trust Teyla, and so he doesn't understand, I feel like, how she feels ostracized by the expedition, how she feels like she's other, in quotation marks, and so he doesn't understand how him divulging her, like, personal mental anguish to some random stranger would affect her, I feel like, because not everyone is him. Like, not everyone is going to treat her, like, because he says a line, like, she's like, I don't need your people to think I'm crazy, like, they already are distrustful of me. And he's like, no one doesn't trust you and no one thinks you're crazy, but that's not necessarily true.
Amazing. And I think you're 100% spot on. And I think it's not only, like, present in this, like, first, like, 15, 20 minutes, but even, like, in the entire episode, like, kind of getting into some stuff that happens later, Elizabeth is so worried about Teyla towards the end. She's, like, putting her foot down, like, I'm hoping it doesn't cause her psychological damage. Like, this is, like, legit, like, and it's true. She has a right to be like, no, this is bad. We are literally, traumatizing her, all this stuff. And John is just like, oh no, like, she's strong. She's the strongest person I know. And it's like, okay, okay. There's so many things wrong with that. Like, okay, yeah, she's strong, but, like, no human is that strong. Like, we all have our breaking points, and Teyla, how did she not break in this one? We can kind of delve into all that, but, like, if anything should have been her breaking point in this show, it probably should have been this one. But yeah, so I think it's a common theme throughout this episode where he's just very much in the military mind zone and not really thinking about, which is kind of strange, to be honest, because I feel like we categorize John as someone in later seasons who is so more John the friend. I think he himself gets those lines blurred way too often, especially, starting when in season 3 with Tao of Rodney, and then you get to Elizabeth, and you get to him convincing a guy to kill himself instead of Rodney. Like, he gets those lines blurred all the fucking time. And so it's interesting to see him in season 1, where he still is very much has those two different brains, and he can be like, oh, Tayla's fine, she's strong. I don't know if later seasons John would have been that nonchalant.
Do you think that maybe that has to do with that he's not fully realized that he is their friend?
Amazing point. And I definitely think that's true, because I don't think he's realized yet how much, 1, his team means to him, and 2, how much Atlantis means to him yet. I feel like that doesn't hit him, honestly. In low-key, I feel like it could be Epiphany. Because that's where his epiphany hit.
Ooh.
Or honestly, maybe
Interesting.
even earlier, maybe after Intruder, when he came back. Remember, there's a talk with him and Elizabeth on the ship. And he's like, yeah, I spent the whole entire time just dreaming about Atlantis, or like wanting to be back on Atlantis. Like, I didn't care about Earth. Yeah. But yeah, no. Amazing point. I didn't think about that. That's
Because we were talking about Elizabeth earlier a bit, I love her. But no, what we touched on earlier, that how different she handled the whole situation with Teyla. Like it was different. It was from a different perspective because she was the leader, and it wasn't the whole trust thing wasn't a thing there. But it was more like from the get go, she was worried. She was worried what this could do to Teyla, and she didn't want to push her too hard because I think Elizabeth was much more aware of what this could do to her mind. And I mean, not fully. She noticed later what she demanded from Teyla. But from the beginning, she asked Teyla if she wanted to do that, if she wanted to try to connect to the Wraith. She made clear that it could bring vital information, but she didn't order her or something, and she didn't just go over her head. And yeah, I really like seeing that.
I agree. And then I really liked the contrast when they were in the infirmary. I can't remember which time it was. They had put Teyla under, and I think it was after she had felt the Wraith feed. And then Elizabeth was like, stop. Like, I can't let this continue. I feel like that was one of the only moments in the show, I feel like the whole thing, where she let her feelings about something come before like a command decision. In the siege we're gonna see later on, like John is like, yeah, I have to kill myself with this bomb, and she doesn't like that he has to do that, but she says go ahead. Whereas in this case, like, she takes the choice away from everybody, and she's like, no, like, stop. And she doesn't want to allow them to continue to do that to Teyla because she sees that it's hurting her, and she doesn't like it. And I thought that was really compelling, and I feel like says a lot about their relationship, how much Elizabeth cares, and also just how she's human, you know? Like, she has to make really hard choices. It's not easy. Her job is definitely not a simple one.
I love what you just said, Tor, about Teyla feeding and that being a point where Elizabeth wanted them to stop this. And it made me realize that Elizabeth was a tiny bit patronizing in this episode as well. Like, after that scene, she didn't want to continue that, or she didn't want Teyla to continue that because she felt like it was hurting her. But by that, making that decision, she took the choice, which was, in the end, was Teyla's. She took it away from her again. Yeah, because she was worried about her. But she did let her go back in, so, yeah.
Yeah, and I think Ford was the one, bless Ford in this episode, who was really, who handled it the best. And when they had that meeting, he was like, you know what? She's her own person. It's her choice. She's going to do what she wants to do, whatever we say. So let's just be there for her. Be in the room. Be there to support her. Be there to help her, like, if something happens. That's all we can do. And I thought, wow. I just loved Ford and Teyla this episode completely. Like, even when he went to visit her after, like, one of her episodes. Like, oh, so cute. Telling her she doesn't have to prove herself, that everybody trusts her. She doesn't have to do it. She doesn't want to. She shouldn't feel compelled. It was great.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm so happy you brought that up. Yeah. We definitely, I feel like we did get we got a few scenes between Ford and Teyla early in this season. And then it just kind of fizzled out in the middle. And then I feel like we're going to get a lot now that we're towards the end. But I love that scene. And I think it really, like, kind of, like, reinforces their dynamic, which I kind of, to put in simpler terms, is just, like, big sister, little brother kind of vibes. And oh, it makes me so happy and sad. But Those a lot of like so many good points being made. I was like, girl, I'm trying to keep track in my head. Like, okay, this is I want to say this. This is another one I want to say. So first I just want to go all the way back. So I think Ash's first point. You were talking about like how hard it was for Elizabeth, and how she did kind of take away that choice for a little, and then she kind of gave it up eventually. And how, in contrast to John, who's just like, oh, yeah, she's strong, it's fine. And how human she was in that moment as well. And I think it just goes to show, again, why we love Atlantis so much here, is that I just love having a civilian as the leader. Because I shudder to think what would have happened if it was a military person in charge, especially in this episode. I feel like it would have gone into some real shady territory. I think they would have just, like what was happening in that room when they were deciding without Teyla and Ford had to come in and step up. I think that would have happened the exact same way. However, it would have been so much worse if it wasn't Elizabeth, because it would have been someone who just didn't stop seeing Teyla as a person and started seeing her as a weapon to be used, and would have done it without her consent and would have pushed her harder. And I don't know if anyone would have stopped it, maybe, except for maybe Rodney or Carson. But Rodney wasn't even there around when the experiments were going on. Like, he just kind of fucked off. So I'm not sure if anyone besides like maybe Kate, Carson, and maybe eventually Ford, if Ford and John, if it got really bad. It just makes me really grateful that it was Elizabeth, because I shudder to think I feel like they could have lost Teyla if it was anyone else in charge.
Damn, now I'm wondering what Rodney would have done if he was there or said.
It really hurt when he wasn't there, because I think, I don't know, I feel like he would have been on like Elizabeth's side a little bit more rather than John's on this, because I think, especially, I feel like he would not have been down. Oh my god, there's so much to talk about with this episode. But with that scene where Tayla's like, I'm feeding, I think both red alerts would have gone off in Rodney's head with Elizabeth, because especially because we have that scene, which little mini tangent, fucking love this scene with all of my heart, is when Teyla bumps into Rodney coming out of therapy, and Rodney tries to like be like, oh, yeah, I was just I'm sleeping with Kate, and Tayla's like, yeah, and he's like, keep it a little secret, and they're like, okay. So I feel like they're secret buddies. But anyways, I feel like especially after that little scene of him seeing Teyla reaching out for help with Kate, I don't think he would have been on Team Elizabeth. He would have immediately said, like, stop it, get her out of there, as soon as she said, I'm feeding.
And you bring up an interesting point about Rodney. I like that. I think I've said it before on a prior episode, but I love how he's voluntarily, like, going to see Heightmeyer. Like, even though he's a little bit embarrassed about it, a little bit, I love that. Because they're going through, like, some serious shit. And so, yeah, like, why wouldn't you? And then even him, like, just having that confidence and knowing that Teyla was also seeing her. Yeah, you're so right. I think it would affect him seeing her go through that.
They mean so much to me as a duo.
Hell yeah.
I feel like if Rodney had been there while Teyla was being hypnotized, he would, or at first, or maybe before that, he would want Teyla to do it, just so they could get as much information about the Wraith as possible. But I agree with what you two said, that as soon as he sees what toll it's taking on Teyla, he would try to make them stop. Because also, he has seen the Wraith feed, and he has seen what it does to the people. And yeah, I think maybe it would be a bit just his not just his worry for Teyla's well-being, but like the other person. Like he knows what it like to see someone die like that. That would just creep him out so much that he would want it to stop as well.
Yeah.
Since we're just on the topic of Rodney and Teyla, I'm going feral with ideas. But I don't know. I feel like they would just be like, I feel like they would like always run into each other like after their therapy sessions, and they'd be like just kind of like silently being like Teyla would put a hand on his shoulder, or he would try to like I don't know, do something back to her where they're like crossing paths, in and out. And I feel like when things would get like really tough, like after like a really serious mission, maybe Taylor would be like leading Rodney to like the cafeteria and they'd go like get a little drink together, just sit in silence, just hang out.
Aw.
I'm in pain.
I'm also in pain.
I feel it in my heart.
I I love that idea of the little nonverbal communication between them when they're going to therapy, because I know it's the 2000s, but I don't think they handled mental illness and the stigma around it very well in this episode. Like, as can be seen with Rodney being super embarrassed when Teyla sees him coming from Heightmeyer's office, but also later in that scene where Teyla yells at John for telling Heightmeyer about her dreams, she immediately goes to the conclusion that getting therapy equals being crazy and being just like this huge stigma around mental illness that is still out there, I think, and even stronger 20 years ago. And it it made me think a bit, because Heightmeyer tells Teyla, first of all, I loved how Teyla just sits down and says like, I don't really know how this works. And I was like, this was me in my first therapy session. Yeah, and then they get into it, and Kate tells her that she assumes that Teyla does similar for her people, just by listening to them, listening about their worries and everything, and kind of being like a counselor. And then in return, it confused me a bit that Teyla was so worried about being seen as quote unquote crazy by the people, because how would you know that going to therapy or talking to a psychologist would bring that stigma? Because I don't know, it felt a bit weird to me that she would react that way, because obviously she was angry because John abused her trust, but also
I don't know. I think for me, like, yeah, I think how I try to rationalize it instead of like, because I mean, we all know the reason why she did it was because, early 2000s and stuff. But I feel like for how I just try to rationalize it in my little brain is that, like, it's more about, like, the trust thing, I think, is how I try to write it off. Because, yeah, I think it's about the fact that John went behind her back to do that. Although it could very well, like, I mean, we always talk about how, like, all of Atlantis needs therapy. All of Atlantis needs a lot of therapy. And this is our first time seeing Kate. So I feel like this must have been a big deal back in the day where people were like, whoa, there's an actual therapist on the base? Like, oh my gosh, like, good for them. They need it. And I think, we always talk about how much of a wasted character she is, especially on a show like this where you can do so much with her and so much but the characters, like, confronting some of the things they face. I mean, we talked about this before, I'm not sure on the pod or off the pod, but yes, therapy should have been used more in Atlantis and Kay as a character. And so I think what sucks is that, from, again, just making leaps and bounds and guesses, but maybe Teyla, because she doesn't even know who Kate is. Like, maybe she really has no idea. Like, she's like, well, why aren't you going to therapy then, John? Like, maybe she just automatically leapt to that conclusion because she's like, no one else, I've seen no one else is in therapy. And she's like, if it's like this mental, like, thing that everyone needs, why isn't everyone in there? Like, why isn't everyone, like, making appointments? So that's kind of a way to rationalize that instead of making it like the early 2000s way.
Yeah, and I like that too, because I feel like John is very much do as I say, not as I do sort of leader. And so, like, the one thing he said right in that conversation was like, nobody's saying you're crazy. It doesn't mean anything's wrong with you if you go to see her. But on the flip side, I feel like he has his own issues and maybe prejudices, I don't know. And I don't think he would take too kindly to being referred to a therapist himself, for various reasons. So,
If anyone but Elizabeth, like, told him, you need to go to therapy, I think he would, oh my gosh, he would have actually, yeah, he would have been really pissed. I think the only reason why Elizabeth has that power over him is because, like, he respects her to some degree. I mean, obviously he respects her more as the show goes on, but at least in the beginning, you know, he's like, okay, this is Commander. Like, even if he like can, even if he tries to like step his little toe out of line and be like, you, occasionally, like he's still like, no, she's in the charge. So I feel like if anyone else, especially season 1, John, if anyone else was like, hey, you should go to therapy. Oh, that man. If you were in the military, rip. If like if you were like a scientist or a civilian, you'd probably be alive. So I'd be grateful for that.
Yeah.
Military, you'd be running laps for days around Atlantis. You'd be doing all his paperwork. He's like, well, you said you wanted me to go to therapy. I don't have time to do all this paperwork if I'm going to therapy.
Oh, touche.
Bring out his inner petty bitch.
No, Sam, just to go back what you said, how you rationalized that scene. Thank you. That makes it so much better. I the way you analyze this episode, it's just very, very good.
Connecting the dots that should not have been connected, but we're connecting them.
And adding new.
I feel like we're all adding new dots. We're adding new like graphs. Like this is like ours is like a tree. Like our tree's ginormous.
Speaking about Kate, what do you think of her character introduction? Because I feel like it's not the best. I love her. Just wanted to mention that. And also this episode is probably the beginning of my OT3 Teyla, Kate, Elizabeth side note. But yeah, I feel like the first time we meet Kate is her not very subtle talking to Teyla Beth about her deepest fears, basically. I think it gets better towards like through the episode. It kind of comes around, but I feel like just the beginning is kind of also, it's so cute. Teyla kind of storms off, but then she stops and still excuses herself or something. She's too polite to just storm off. I love her.
Yeah, I don't know. It's tough to get a read on her this episode because at first she's like introduced as the antagonist-ish or like in an antagonistic way, and then she seems really cool. I feel like, you know, you mentioned it before, Ash, in her first session with Teyla, she tries to connect with her on a human level, you know, and tells them, like, you know, we're sort of similar, the way she's a counselor for people on the Atlantis expedition and Teyla is a counselor for her people. And they both feel like they have to be strong and, like, put up fronts, or else, like, people will falter, etc. Like, that was nice. It was nice to hear a little bit of her own personal life come through in the session. But then she's also, like, in the nightmare again as, like, an antagonistic figure. So I couldn't really get a good read on her. But that's just me, personally.
Yeah, okay. Like, okay, so I feel like in theory, I really like Kate. In theory. And I really like, you know, Kate, Teyla Beth. Like, in theory, I love them, you know? But I just feel like within the canon of the show, I'm not sure if I like Kate as a character, if that makes sense. Because it's not like, it's not even, I just feel like they're just so lazy with her characterization is my thing. That's my whole thing, is I feel like sometimes, like, I honestly feel like I know there's like, there's like, how many fics are there of them? Like 2? Or like 6, I think. Like, so there's very little, like, characterization out there that I can kind of, like, rationalize it. But I would like to kind of, like, read how other people kind of characterize her, you know? Because, yeah, I don't know. Like, I just think they don't ever give her, like, time to shine outside of being a therapist, you know? And so I don't know who she is ever. Like, she's nice and she's really sweet and she is a great therapist, you know? But like, who is she? Uh, who is she? Like, does she, what's her family situation like? What are her hobbies? I feel like, maybe she could be like a, oops, drop my pencil. But maybe she could be like I feel like she could be like a knitting kind of gal, or like crocheting kind of gal, you know? But I don't know. Like, again, so there's just so much that I think, and again, it just goes back to her just kind of being used as just a therapist. She's only propped out whenever it's like oh, we need a therapist. Oh yeah, Kate. And I wish she was more like, again, well, we always talk about this, that I wish that they had kind of really just stuck to the idea of it being an ensemble show, because it really isn't. Um but I think it would have been really cool to see her just as a regular character and kind of seeing her like deal with the day-to-day as well, like a Zelenka almost, but maybe a little less if they didn't want to make her too present. But like like maybe show her reaction to the Wraith coming or like the Wraith, in Atlantis, or maybe she goes out one time with the team on a mission. Really interesting. Like, they gotta send her to the kid planet. Like, all those kids need therapy for ritual, sacrificing, each other. So yeah, I like Kate. I think she's nice. I think she's sweet. I just maybe through this podcast we can create a better character for her. Because I want to know what she's like. Is she like is she like snarky? What is her sense of humor like? How does she like? I need to know how she mixes in with the Teyla Beth dynamics. I think we figured out Teyla Beth so well, and I want to add her in there because I think it's so fun, and I think her and Elizabeth and Teyla would get along really well. But I want to know more about her besides just her being a therapist.
I kind of wish that they had included her in the last episode now, just in like a little clip, like one of the clips or one of the background or B team characters just doing a video, and if they brought her back for this episode, because you're so right, they only ever bring her up when there's some psychological problem, in quotation marks. And it's so sad because I feel like, yeah, you're so right, they didn't really flesh out her character, give her something distinct, like any distinct characteristic. I mean, she's extremely patient, and I think she meditates. This is maybe weird, and but maybe she picks up meditating with Teyla, because
yes.
Elizabeth doesn't meditate. It doesn't work for her. She tries it, and it doesn't work for her. But yeah, I think she would. She to me, she already appears so centered and calm. I don't know. I feel like just it would fit her kind of. But yeah, it would be interesting to see her in a non-professional setting. I always love that. I always love scenes or episodes where we see to the private lives of characters. So damn it.
I know. Well, now I feel like I don't know why. It just came to me. I feel like she would be like a vegan.
Yeah. She would be,
or at least vegetarian.
Yeah. Do we see what she has on her tray? Because she comes to lunch.
Oh yeah. Damn, I don't remember now. I know there was green on there. There was definitely a salad. For sure.
I feel like she would also be so interested in meeting the Athosians and just getting to know them, and maybe they would think she's weird because they don't. I have this idea that Teyla is kind of like the council. Maybe they do more, and we're like, they don't have that much of a hierarchy, but like there are a few people that you can just go to and ask for advice, or if you have problems, and Teyla is definitely one of those. So they maybe would think that Kate is a bit weird because that's like her whole job, and I would feel like the Athosians would be a group of people who that would be enough, if that sounds weird, but yeah, but it would also be interesting if they started to like trust her, and she visits them more often, and is one of those who goes to the mainland a lot.
Well, it'd just be so fun to like add these little character bits to her, and make her like feel like a real person. And I think that stuff with the Athosians is so cute. And such a good idea too, because I think, again, it would have been, we talk about it all the time. It would have been so nice to see them kind of more incorporated into the show, and not even just that, but like us learning about the Athosian culture, and maybe even seeing like in the beginning they had this like huge divide with they literally got kicked out of Atlantis. Like I'm sure it was kind of a mess in the beginning, so it would have been nice to see more of a slow burn sort of thing where they're okay eventually. Some people do actually just go off and hang out with them for it's like their vacation. They just go hang out with the Athosians for like a week or something. Yeah, and then I don't know, I kind of want to add like I need to add something fun, I think, to Kate, because so far like we've said like some really really nice and sweet things, but I don't know, we just need to add something funny. So I don't know, what do you guys think of us just saying maybe she's like really clumsy secretly? or like she's shit at direction, like whenever they go out like on the jumper, Teyla has to like lead her to the ocean camp, and like one time Tayla's like, oh, you already know where it is, and like they're like they lose Kate for an hour, like Kate went the wrong direction.
No, that would be so
just
cute.
Something endearing like that. Like I just need her to be a little like, sometimes she's not just this like, she's not always in control, she's not always like the perfect therapist. Like maybe she likes action movies, like I don't know. Like
Oh my, Atlantis is huge. She would definitely I mean, if we say that she's bad at directions, she would get so lost in Atlantis. And there's like she would like call Elizabeth and like, Dr. Weir, I'm lost. And Elizabeth is just like, again? And she's like at the other end of the city. No idea how she got there, but for some reason, and she doesn't find her way back, so.
Yes, and that could explain why she was gone for the whole first season, basically. She just showed up now. She's just been getting lost.
That's perfect. Yeah. No, that's great. That's great.
And then, like, after, like, the first, like, 3 or 4 times, like, she was like, this is so embarrassing. Like, I'm the therapist. I have to, like, be, like, professional. So, like, that's why she only sticks to, like, that's why we never see her. She only sticks to, like, her wing. Like, They put her room right next to her, like, workstation, so she doesn't have to. And she, like, she'll, like, go for food sometimes, but she also, like, makes food sometimes, like, in her room. And she just sticks to her little area.
The view from her office is amazing. I don't think we see that view a lot, but it's so beautiful. It's kind of low, and it goes out to, like, one of the wings, I don't know what you call it, of Atlantis, like one of the snowflake thingies. It's so beautiful. Ugh, I want an office like that.
I like that we saw like the day and night cycle, like in her office. Like we got to see it in the morning, we got to see it at night. That was cool. But speaking of making her more interesting, I think she had an easy client in Teyla. I know she was apprehensive at first, but like she was very like forthcoming and a part of the conversation in their sessions. I feel like it would have been interesting if we could have seen Heightmeyer up against like a Ronan or a John type, and then see how her style of therapy would change based on like these more defensive personalities. It would be super interesting. Like, we get to see a little bit with Rodney, but I don't remember it being, like, super. But I would definitely love to have seen that.
Oh, yeah. Oh, my gosh. Her and Ronan. Woo! Especially when Ronan first gets there, and he, like, barely even talked to Elizabeth.
Yeah.
Like, imagine them being like, you have to go to therapy, talk about your feelings. He would just sit there. And like I think honestly, oh yeah, and she tried, and he would just stare at her, I think. And then I think eventually, I don't know, I think she would kind of like appeal, because he is really young. Okay, sorry, we need to get back on track. We're gonna get back on track after this, okay? Because Lord Almighty, we spent like 30 minutes talking about a character, a side character. But to do this tangent, I feel like I all the time forget how young Ronan was, like when he started being a runner, right? We don't know exactly how old he was, but we do know he's still pretty young when Atlantis kind of, breaks the tracker. So I feel like she might try something more targeted towards like teenage or young adult kind of therapy styles. Like I could see her trying to be like, "Oh, you like to paint?" Like like tell me about that. Or like something like trying to like appeal to like his hobbies and trying to get to know him first and trying to establish a trust, And then maybe like she gives him homework like that, like, "Oh, go paint outside today." Or,
Oh.
like go do this and then like go say hi to someone new, or like just little things like that to try to get him out of his shell. And then eventually when there's that trust, they can start talking.
That is so cute.
Okay, let's just dive off the deep end. And let's just go straight into the heart of this episode. Teyla. I just want to talk really quick. I mean, there's so much to talk about with Teyla and her entire arc, characterization, everything in this episode. But one of the things I love is, it's just so, it's sad, or it hurts your heart a little bit to watch Teyla feel like she has to prove herself to everyone, not only on the base, but like even the Athosians as well. And it's sad because, again, like going back to John, John's like, "Oh, no one thinks you're crazy." And it's like, okay, you don't think that, but you don't know how other people are thinking. And he just is so, it goes over his head completely because he hasn't had to experience that, And again, there's a good metaphor somewhere around here. It can be for a number of things, And so I like that bit of characterization that we get from her. However, I am kind of sad that I don't know if it's ever addressed as much as it is in this episode. Like her like need to be like, I have to be strong for the base and for my people. I love that. And I'm sad that we didn't get to I'm sad she was kind of like telling that or like showing that to John, because John's not gonna over his head, bitch. Okay. Like I kind of wanted her to show that more to like Kate or Elizabeth, and I think it would have been really cool to see maybe as the show goes on, kind of her learning that she doesn't have to be that strong person. Same as Elizabeth. We talked about this before. Elizabeth has that same mentality where it's like, I can't cry unless no one sees me. They all have that mentality. And so, yeah, I just wish, it makes me so sad for the missed opportunity that was Teyla, because I think it would have been really cool, to see her try, like, struggle with being a leader on Athos and leaving her people for the base, but then, being strong and having to maintain that pretense. And then maybe eventually, over time, she's like, okay, I don't have to prove myself anymore. I can take a step back. I'm good enough. I feel like, oh man, this just goes back to also like, I don't know, I feel like maybe being a woman too, we don't know much about the Athosian culture, but maybe she feels like she has to be that super strong leader, because of other prejudices, or maybe just on the base too. We see that when Sumner first sees her, he's like, "You're the leader," like fully looks past her. I don't know, maybe she just has to. It's not only just about proving herself as a capable leader, but proving herself as a capable leader without like the burden of gender.
Yeah, yeah, you bring up excellent points. And like you said, this episode is kind of the perfect introduction or like climax for this sort of arc for her, because I feel like there was one conversation that she had with Charon on the mainland where Charon was like, "Oh, I remember when you were a little girl and you would read and like paint pictures." And she was like, I haven't been that girl in a long time. Like the feeling of having to cast off certain things that are either too girlish, in quotations, or too childish, because she had to take on this burden of responsibility, or because she wanted to portray a stronger front to people. She didn't want anybody to see cracks in her armor, so to speak. Yeah, it's just, that hit me, and it made me really sad to hear that. Because who knows, like, Maybe she had, like, secret passion, like, she was into painting, too, or we know she can sing, right? Stuff like that is just sad to see, like, her suppress.
They have an art club on Atlantis.
Lorne is there.
Lorne, Teyla, Ronan, I don't know, some other people, but these for sure. Oh my gosh. Yeah, both of you bring up so great points. Oh my gosh. And I love how this episode goes into Tayla's character and also making her fierce. Like, we start with a nightmare of hers, but we really will go into her deepest fear in this episode. Like, she's part wraith. I think that's she has to struggle with so much. I don't. That might be just me kind of headcanoning that the Athosians are a matriarchy, but I don't think she had to prove herself as a woman that much with her people, but she probably has to in Atlantis. I mean, we see Bates. First Sumner and then Bates.
Yeah.
So I think that's maybe kind of new, but yeah, she has to deal with that. And on top of that, she finds out one of the most horrifying things that she has wraith DNA, and that's the reason for her gift or her superpowers, as Carson calls them. And in the beginning, after she goes to talk to Charin about this, and she then continues to tell Elizabeth and John about this, that some people believed it was a gift from the ancestors, that they could feel. Some people could feel the wraith, and then they found out that that's not the reason. And the way she bears herself through this, the way she manages to accept this on some level is insane at first. Like, she's literal DNA of her worst enemy, and she's kind of part of them. And then she I think, I don't know if she continues to see it as a gift, but she sees it now as a possibility to achieve more. And the fact that she sees that and uses it and wants to use it is just mind-blowing to me.
Yeah, I know, it's so hard to watch this episode and to hear her and other people call it a superpower and a gift so many times when you know what's coming and you're just like, and it makes me so sad. Like, I get, like, kind of in the moment, maybe I feel like she's the type of person who wouldn't react to, like, this kind of, like, world dropping news in the moment, but it makes me so sad that I think that we never got to see, like, her full, mental breakdown over this, because like, I don't care how strong you are, there is no way she'd be able to deal with this as well as she handled it in the show. I think it's heartbreaking, because I think season 2, that should have been her entire arc for the season. Her coming to terms with what she is, what happened to her ancestors, how her people have seen it as a gift, whether or not she should tell them. Does she struggle with telling them that it's not a gift, but, like, something that the Wraith gave her? Does she even tell them that she is, like, that she has Wraith DNA, And it would have been really cool to see her use the power throughout season 2 and to really struggle. Like, maybe John asks her to do it, and the first few times she does it, and then she starts getting more and more angry and uncomfortable and sort of, like, realizing that this isn't something she wants to do anymore or ever. Or maybe she doesn't want to use it anymore. Maybe she just completely gives up on the power and kind of grows more resentful of it. The what ifs that drive me crazy. I feel like there was so much that could have been done there. And it, again, makes me so pissed that they give her this, and they give her this crazy, honestly really cool and really heartbreaking arc. And the only fucking time they bring out Teyla's powers are when the plot needs it to. There is no, like, deeper... maybe I'm just, like, misremembering things, because I don't remember season 2 very well. I watched it over a year ago. But from what I remember, I don't remember her repeatedly worrying about this. I just know, I remember, especially they bring it back for Submersion, that's in season 3. And she's just very like, I'll do it. Let me do it. And everyone's like, no. And once again, Elizabeth is like, no. And she's like, let me do it. So yeah, I don't know. I just wish it was better developed because the seeds are right there. They planted such amazing seeds. Water your plants.
Yeah, she also uses it to, like, she learns at some point she's able to steer a wraith ship, which is insane. And yeah, it would be. I don't remember her ever worrying about this ever again, or just as seeing it as something bad. She learns about it, and then it's bad for this episode, but then she just accepts it. And yeah, you're so right. Does she tell her people that she's part wraith, and that all the other people, all the other versions who can feel the wraith, that they are part wraith too?
The fact that Teyla sort of puts aside all her personal feelings about this ability that she has and like wants to use it for the good of her people, for the good of the expedition. Like, it's really, I don't know if it's selfless or she's doing it because she needs to prove herself, but regardless, yeah, I just wish they went back to it in season 2. Like, I get the siege happening and like you can't like let those things affect you in the moment because like you're literally gonna die tomorrow basically, but like once that had passed, I would have liked definitely a return to that. And you guys are mentioning Carson referring to her ability as a superpower. I thought it was super cute when he said it wasn't her only superpower. So like the idea that, you know, her strength and like her combat ability, like stuff that she trained her whole life to do, like makes her a superwoman to him. And I like the idea of Carson looking up to her and like finding her like inspiring or like heroic. In my mind, I like to think like Rodney sees her that way too. But yeah, it was just a sweet line. You get points for that one, Carson. And also, you were mentioning, like, would she tell her people or not? It was interesting that Charon said that no other living Athosian knows the story about, like, the people returning from the Wraith, except her, Teyla's father who had passed. So it'd be interesting to see, like, what she would do. I feel like the bigger part of me is saying that honesty would win out to her and she would want to say the truth and the history and what happened to them. But another part of me is like, it doesn't just affect her and how her people are going to see her. It will also affect the other Athosians who also have that ability. And so I don't know if she'd want to put them in that position by revealing the truth.
Okay, but you know how interesting would have been? Yeah, like an entire season of her trying to struggle with should she tell them or should she not? And maybe she does tell them, and maybe it goes fucking horrible. Maybe they're all like, you know, trying to decide if she should stay as the leader of the Athosians. That would be insane. Because then we get, like, them bringing up the point, well, she's gone all the time. And do we even trust her? Now she's part Wraith. Oh, that would have been heartbreaking. And it would have destroyed Teyla. And I would like to see it. But, oh, man.
Ouch!
Yeah.
What are you doing to my girl? Don't put her through that. I can see the point that they would say, yeah, she's not here all the time anyways. But I think before that would happen, she would kind of step down. Like herself. And what if she, like, she's probably constantly aware, or she still has the Athosian mindset that she could die any day, that the Wraith could come any day and she'll be dead. And now that Charon and her are the only two people knowing the story, I feel like she would want to preserve it somehow. And maybe she wouldn't tell her people right away because of all the struggle you just described. But maybe she would write it down it would be cute if she like learned to keep a log on Atlantis. And she has it in like a folder encrypted 7 times or something, so no, but it's there in case she doesn't make it, so somebody can that story doesn't go away in case she dies, and or maybe she just tells Howling, because I feel like he's kind of second in command, and that he's kind of leading them while she's away. So yeah, those are my 2 ideas.
I need to jump in because I feel like when you were talking about like the keeping the log and like how it's encrypted, Rodney would make that for her.
Oh.
Obviously.
No, but she would go up to him and be like, I need you to make me something. Like, I need something where no one can get into it, like, just in case of death or something, just in case. And he's like, oh, he would be like, oh, man. I think he'd be a little touched that she asked him. And then he would make it for her.
I got you, girl.
Yeah. Oh, man. This has been so good. I think I just forgot, like, how good this episode was. This is easily top 5 of the season for me. And I think all of our what ifs, like, regardless, are, like, so fun and so interesting. And it, like, physically pains me that I honestly think, you know, biases aside, like, I love Vala. I love her so much. She's my main girly. But I truly think, like, even just, like, this episode alone, I think makes Teyla the most effort the Stargate writers put into a female character. Like, with the backstory and, like, the reality of her having to face that, like, this something that she thought was a gift is actually has, like, a horrifying background, horrifying background to it. I think it makes me so mad because this is so good. Like, this is amazing stuff. Look, I'm praising the writers. It's, wow, rare. But, like, this is amazing. This is beautiful. This is such a good arc for her. As someone who tries so hard to be seen as strong. And, like Tor said earlier, like, she probably had to let go of, like, some of her, like, hobbies growing up and, try to be more leader-like, And it hurts me deep inside that they made this episode and did nothing else with Teyla. They said, this is enough. And honestly, like, even, like, like, when I first watched it, like, I remember tweeting, like, a few times, like, oh, yeah, like, I like Atlantis, like, here's my thoughts on this. And I was always saying, oh, but, like, I want Teyla to have more. Or, like, oh, Teyla's so underdeveloped here. Every season, I was like, oh, is this the season they develop her? Nope. And it's so sad because they laid an excellent foundation here. They laid the most beautiful foundation I've ever seen. This is the most, not even, honestly, this is probably some of the most effort they've put into any, like, character in Stargate. Not even just female or male. Like, who the hell has this interesting of a backstory? This interesting of a moral and, like, just psychological dilemma? Like, no one. And what did they do with it? Nothing. I'm gonna scream. I'm in shock. They made this episode and then gave up, I think. Or just forgot. Selective memory? Like,
they got renewed for another season and they're like, oh shit, we have to go somewhere with this after. Or we could just not. Yeah.
Oh, man.
Our villain origin story, truly.
But anyways, going off what you said, I actually wrote down, I was like, when the Wraith takes over Teyla for that brief moment and she's, like, literally kicking everyone's ass, I was like, dude, Teyla's so scary. I was like, she's a short terror. She is 5'4" and she will kill you. She beat Carson and Ford up like no one else. If it wasn't for
John
Bates,
too,
of all people,
right?
Yeah.
Fucking Bates.
I hate that Bates.
I hate him. I hate him so much, and this episode doesn't make it better. Especially because after he shoots her, he has like this little smug smile on his face. And it made me so angry because, yes, you might have been right that she did this. This can be dangerous, and yes, maybe you saved them in that situation, but don't smile about it.
Yeah, don't be happy about it.
No, that's like I don't know if he was smiling because he was right or because he got to shoot Teyla. Both is horrible, and yeah, I and she didn't beat up Elizabeth.
Mm-hmm.
She didn't. she didn't get to her. I thought,
Oh, I was laughing so hard when Carson got like just clear across the room. She like backhanded him and he went flying. It was so funny. And then she literally picked up the IV pole and like smashed Shepard in the ass with it. It was so funny. I was dying. Like, go off. It was so great.
yeah.
Whoever choreographed that scene, thank you. From the bottom of my heart, I mean it.
Yeah, but that Wraith taking over her body was just terrifying.
I love the Wraith
Also-
voice. It was really good.
Yeah. The voice and how her expression completely changed. It's just acting. Wow, great, good job, Rachel. Good job. And
I was gonna say, give a hand for Rachel. Rachel did everything this episode. Like, she gave us. Thank you.
woo! amazing.
Yeah, I was gonna mention, I love how underrated Teyla Sass is. I feel like her sass is so underrated. I feel like she has such a dry humor. She's very sarcastic. And I love that scene where she meets up with Char and she's like, "You've changed, Teyla." And Tayla's like, "My hair is shorter." I was cracking up. I was like, "Oh my gosh, she is so funny. She is so unserious. She is like, you're funny, bestie. You're so funny." I mean, yeah, I think a lot of the, I feel like we've kind of talked a lot about, everything about Teyla. Not really sure what else is there to say. I mean, the I'm feeding scene is so sad. We already talked about this, but I think it sucks to be on the other side for her. So many people she knows, her dad literally died because, they were fed on. And I think that was rightfully so Elizabeth's breaking point and telling her, "No, you're not going back."
I think even earlier when I think it's in a dream where Kate asks her what she's feeling, and Teyla says, "I feel hunger," and she's a wraith herself. And she wakes up and she looks so disgusted. And I was like, holy shit. It was a bit of a build up to the feeding scene later, but it's just, she feels so disgusted that seeing the other side of, like, she's in the mind of the enemy, and I don't think she likes it one bit. Like, yes, she wants to know when they get here what their plans are, but feeling their hunger, and I don't even want to know what it feels like to feed on someone. It must be like, from the wraith perspective, it's probably a good feeling, like when you eat. I don't know. Yeah, just her feeling that must be one of the worst feelings ever, and I don't know how she recovers from that. How do you bounce back from that?
Yeah, like you were saying, it's an insane lead up to not only the feeding scene, but the fact that she herself had wraith DNA. And it just speaks volumes about her character, that she's so willing, like, even after experiencing the trauma of that, like the wraith feeding, she's still willing to go in and look for more information. Like, she knows she can do it. And she can. It doesn't mean she should, right? Or that it's good for her, but the fact that she's willing to put her, not health, I don't want to say, or life, but like soul, if you believe in that sort of thing, on the line, was crazy to me. The other insane lore drop of this episode was that the Wraith, or at least Wraith language, had evolved after the Ancients. And Carson surmises that humans were left on a planet with their Raidus bugs, and that's how Wraith came to be. And the team are sort of arguing a little bit back and forth about how that happened. Was it because the Ancients were negligent? Was it a mistake? I'm leaning towards the camp of, like, willful experimentation and then, oops, we made a mistake. But it was interesting to see where everyone kind of stood on that argument, and how feelings about the Ancients are slowly changing with information coming to light.
Yeah, that is so true. Oh man. Yeah, the Ancients were probably experimenting, huh? They're doing some weird shit. I feel like we definitely learn more later, but I don't have I don't remember what we learned later, but we learned more later. But I don't think it's gonna be any better for the ancients. It's so weird. Cause I love that too, like everyone's face. Like John is so disturbed the entire time. And he says like the whole like, don't I thought we are gonna stop talking about the bugs. Because like he's so traumatized by that. And I love that running joke so much. But even like when Ford is like, what? Like they merge with them? Like kind of like, it was everyone just looked so disgusted. And I was like, besties, same. That is so weird. How did that even happen? Again, I'm sure these are rhetorical. Maybe not all of them. But like, how did the ancients just let them grow, like into that giant ass like civilization? Like they really said, we don't see anything happening. We don't see anything happening until it was way too late and the Wraith were knocking at their door, blowing down their door, really. And so, yeah, I think it's once again, ancient slander is encouraged. They are ridiculous and so incredibly negligent.
I was watching the Pegasus Project yesterday, I think. And there's a scene with Vala, Daniel, and Elizabeth in the room with the hologram, which is not a hologram. And Elizabeth is still, it's around season 3 in Atlantis. In SG1, it's season 10. But Elizabeth, the dichotomy is so amazing because Daniel is so done with the ancients. He's just like, fuck these bitches. And Elizabeth is still like, no, they would never do this, and they are like this, and these spiritual beings. And it was like, girl, you've been here more than 2 years. You still don't know shit, and you're still adoring them.
Yeah, speaking of which, Elizabeth even defends the ancients during this conversation. Like, she's like, the ancients weren't responsible for creating murderous beings. Debatable. Although, the one good thing that occurred from this revelation is the fact that Zelenka totally called this shit. He was like, I bet you money, Rodney, that the Wraith came after the ancients. I bet you money. And he won that bet. I don't know how he came up with it. I don't know if he was just guessing or if he like knows some ancient or something, but good for him. And another part of me is like, currency is no good in the Pegasus Galaxy, so like what do they barter? Like what does he owe? What does Rodney owe Zelenka now?
Coffee.
Yeah.
I love that moment because I have never noticed it before. This was the first time me watching this and noticing this moment. It's like, it's 1 second, he's like, pay up. And I cracked up. I completely cracked up. How amazing is that? And it also totally plays into what Sam was talking about last week, or even before that, with the betting pool, that there are betting pools on Atlantis, that they have that. And there are like small ones and big ones. And this is just one instance where we see it actually. And amazing, amazing. And good for Radek, honestly. Good for him. He deserves a win.
Oh, that makes me so happy. Okay, really quick though, before we talk about the fun stuff, I do want to go back to the what Tor was saying about Elizabeth and how, we were talking like, and Nash too. Like, I just wonder, like, what is it about the ancients? What is it about the ancients that have just completely captured Elizabeth? That she, in season 3, or in Pegasus Project, which is season 3 of Atlantis, she is still like, the ages are great, guys. The ages are great. Like it, I really want to know. It's not even just to like I'm just so curious. Like, what is it about them as a society, as a culture, as like a group of people that she is so eager to be like, these are people that are better than like, these are people that hold themselves to a higher standard. They wouldn't do this. Like it's so fascinating, and I wish we had gotten some light or some sort of inkling into why she's so captivated by them. But also, switching to the fun stuff, I love that scene of Carson, Rodney's Lenka. And I was gonna say, is it the first scene we get of them three? All three of them hanging out?
I think it might be.
I feel like I haven't seen them three on screen before, and we've talked about this a bunch of times, or I think on the pod, maybe definitely off the pod as well. But I freaking love them three. You know, we occasionally have our little issues with Carson. We still love him, but I think he just becomes infinitely better when he's with Rodney and Zelenka, and it pains me to my core. It physically pains me actually that we never got an episode of them three off world. Like it drives me crazy. It drives me insane that we never saw them three. But anyways, I was just gonna say, what's their ship name?
Stargate
it
doesn't
can't be the
do
science-
ship names.
Well, yeah, but I mean, like, it can't be the science trio. Okay, that's taken. That's from Universe. What's them three? Is it
McLinkett?
I think I've heard of that one actually.
What?
Regardless, I don't know. I feel like it might be that. I don't know. But regardless,
sounds
I
good.
just love
I like
this
that.
OG3. I know. It's not that bad actually. It's the best we can come up with. But I don't know. I love this OG3. Like whether or not it's like I feel like for me it's maybe not necessarily romantic, just more like platonic, but I would still honestly put them in like my top 3 favorite OG3s. Like I freaking love them. Like in the missed potential I think of just them being best friends and getting more scenes of just them three, and like all of them have such different ideas, different personalities, and like they're so funny together. So yeah, no, I just love seeing them.
I feel like they would always team up against like 2 of them against one of the other, but it was change all the time depending on the topic and situation. It would be a really, really fun dynamic.
Oh, 100%. And I love Ronnie and Zelenka, like, treating Carson like an object. They're like, well, we had it first! Like, and being proprietary about him. It was just great. Speaking of which, after Carson was stolen by Elizabeth, much to his delight, Rodney and Zelenka are like, okay, we need somebody else to come in the chair. And they name drop Miko. And I was like, oh my god, Miko has the gene! I totally forgot.
I know. I was so happy because I feel like she's the first one. I don't know if I talked about this before on the pod, but I thought about it a lot, and I try to remember women who have the gene, and they do they have any? Like, no, we have Miko. Yay! Amazing! I was so happy. So, finally, we have somebody else except John, Carson, Rodney, and some random military who always die when they use their genes. Nice, but also why are there more women with gene?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm a bit salty about that.
Yeah, and like now I'm thinking in the future, like why don't they get Miko to use the chair? Because they get Carson to use the chair a couple of times when John isn't there. He doesn't want to. Let Miko use it.
Anytime we get, again, I feel like this is just adding to our agenda of the science expedition is such a fucking funny, like, group of people. Like, they're the people I just want to be, like, torso out of fly on the wall and watching them. Like, I don't give a shit about the military people, okay? They suck. Give me the science expedition, all the reality show about the science expedition. And I love it when they just, like, just them just name-dropping Miko out just made me so unreasonably happy. Because again, like, it's bare minimum, literally. The bar is in hell, but I love just keeping up the continuity. Especially since we just saw her last episode. They were like, oh, hey,
Remember?
Miko's still here. And it's like, aw, yay, Miko's here.
And speaking of the science expedition, we find out another lore drop this episode that there are 200 expedition members, and the majority of them are science people. So that was cool. I didn't think it was so small. It feels like really small for such a big city, but that's really cool.
Well, they lost a lot of people. I don't want to know. I don't want to know. I don't want to know with how many they started out, but I feel like we lost at least 10.
At least. For any Battlestar Galactica fans out there, you will know what I'm talking about. They have like a count of
Oh,
the people that they lose. So they had like 10,000 people, and then it just keeps going down and down with every crisis. So I imagine like they have an official count on Atlantis. That's horribly morbid, but
well, Elizabeth definitely has like a private one because it just haunts her. It would be really hard to like. But do they? Is it just the expedition, or do they add people when they like make friends or take in refugees or something?
oh, true. So technically, you can add to the number as well. It's not always being
Yeah.
subtracted from.
Okay. I just have a few more things left, and it does kind of tie in, but I was gonna say, I love the scene where Teyla, John, Rodney, and Ford all go to the planet and go investigate, and Ford's like, "What the hell are we doing here?" And John's like, "Just let her do it. She has to do it, like, to keep her sane." Like, it's so fun. And the thing is, like, that little, like, 2-minute scene, it drives me crazy because I think there are so many good little crumbs in that scene of what that OT4 with Ford could have looked like, you know? There's that little scene, where there's that little, like, shot of them three, and Rodney's, like, with his little, like, device, like, "Wait, something, like, bleeped," and they're like, "Wait, what the fuck, really?" Like, they fully did not believe that to happen. When Teyla disappears, they're like, "Where's Teyla?" They're like, "She went," and oh my god, when Rodney's like, "Well, just get a running head start, just run into the wall." Like, he wanted John to run into the, like, it's so funny. And then, of course, the iconic Ford making a dick joke, and John just looking absolutely unhappy. He's like, "Who put this 5-year-old on my team?" He's like, "Get this man out of here." John cannot take it. He's too pretentious. Like, he's like literally on babysitting duty. Like, I freaking love that scene with all of my heart. I think some of the best scenes of the Atlantis crew is just when they're walking into places and they have to talk to each other in character, and it's so good.
John truly
Ford-
betrayed his rich boy upbringing with his disgust at Ford's dick joke. I also thought it was so funny that when he like glared at him for saying that, Ford was like, "You guys make fun of me all the time, and I'm making fun of Rodney, and now I'm getting in trouble." Like, it's so funny. I love to imagine the little fighting and like ganging up on each other. So good. The prank wars were probably legendary.
Oh yes, and I think it just reinforces the idea that Ford was very much little brother energy for them.
Oh,
All of
yes.
them, honestly.
Yeah.
Like, like if Ford was little brother energy, I feel like Ronan is like middle child energy. But I think that dynamic is so cute, especially, you know, like Rodney didn't have a younger brother, and then John kind of maybe can see eventually, you know, or could have seen Ford as almost a replacement for his own brother, you know, as the younger. Do we know if Teyla has any siblings? I don't know, but she could have had a sibling with Ford. Like,
Oh, she had siblings for sure. I feel like, yeah, Teyla is the big sister and also the mom of the group. Like, I'm kind of glad she didn't notice this little exchange between the three of them, because she was just so zoned out. Otherwise, she would just be rolling her eyes and be like, "Oh God, these children! I have to work with them every day." And I love how she just whooshes through the wall. It's just, I don't know, and it's so hilarious somehow. And I actually laughed when she's just whoosh gone. Then Rodney, yeah, just slam really into it. Oh god. I love them. They are also such idiots.
Yeah, another favorite trope of mine is, like you just said, Ash, Rodney telling John to do things that he doesn't want to do himself. One of which, run headfirst into a stone wall. And that got the response it deserved.
Ronan would have done it. He would have run into the wall.
He would have taken it as a challenge, for sure.
yes. I need more of there is that one scene in Irresponsible that kind of goes along with this headcanon of R of like Ronan just like, I feel like if you challenge Ronan to do something, he'd be like, "Okay, I'll do it." all you have to say the words is like, I challenge you, and Ronan would be like, I'm up, I'm here. And there's that where Lucius is like, punch me in the face. And Ronnie's like, don't do it. Like, he has the shield, and Ronan just decks him and completely like hurts his hand and like hopping around. He's like, my hand. And Ronnie's just like, I told you. Like, I needed more of Ronan just doing shit like that. Ronan head first, golden retriever energy. He's just blinking his head, trying his best.
Ronan Jackass AU. Where is it?
We talk a lot about Ronan today. It's very funny.
I know.
I know. And somehow it comes back to Ronan. I don't know how.
Why are we in a Ronan mood? Like, what was in the air today? We were just like, we need Ronan in this episode. Okay, one last thing about Ronan. Okay, and then we're going back. We're gonna finish this damn episode before we hit the 3-hour mark. Imagine if Ronan was in this episode. Like, oh my gosh, the him and Teyla.
But how would he react to Teyla being part Wraith?
Honestly, I don't know. I feel like he'd be more worried about her than anything having to do with like genealogy. I don't think it would matter to him because of who she is.
I think it depends on how early this is into the relationship.
Yeah, true.
Because imagine if like, you know, okay, so you know, like there's that first like they meet on whatever world he was on, they take him back to Atlantis, and they have that really like weird app where they're like, he's like, you know, he slammed to the ground, all that. I feel like if this had happened after that, like right after, they would have never been as close as they were. I think if this was like season 3, Ronan would have been like, yeah, he wouldn't have given a shit. He would have been like, are you okay? And like he would have been on Elizabeth's side, being like, no, don't let Teyla do this. Get her out of there right now.
Yeah, I think it could go either way with his reaction. I can see him being super pissed and distant at her, even though she can't. It's not her fault. But yeah, also him being protective of her.
Man,
Full on Echo
like,
style.
Ooh.
yeah.
Ooh.
Oh. Both of our reactions were like, yeah. Oh. But I was gonna say, I feel like this would have been a really fun episode for them as well to have that conflict, because I think maybe he could have been overprotective from the beginning, and then she would have to, like, you know, they could have had a big argument scene in the middle, maybe, or towards right before she goes under as the Wraith, and she could have been like, you need to leave me alone. Like, we're not, you know, like something just like to really get at him. Like, you can't control me this way. We're not family. We're not this. You can't tell me what to do. It hurts him. And then they could have made it up maybe after he's pissed, and then he sees her become the Wraith, and he's like, worried for her. And then they could have had that scene at the end where they could have reconciled. She could have apologized, or he could have obviously he would have apologized too. And he'd be like, I have to learn how to trust you, and no, you're strong enough on your own. You don't need me. And she's like, I need you. She's always gonna need him.
But also him doubting her, or him being angry at her, or not trusting her anymore for being part Wraith, would also feed so much into her self-doubt. It could get really bad for her.
No, that would actually like hurt me to the core. That's why I'm not like imagining that side. But, like, him not trusting her would actually break everyone, I think, on Atlantis. I think it'd break the team, genuinely, because they would not be able to function. She would be so heartbroken and so like hurt by the fact that he couldn't look over this. And I think it could get messy real quick. Like, it would be like teams. You have to pick a team. I don't think, like, I feel like the entire base, it'd be like a civil war almost. Like, the entire base would have to pick sides. Like, Ronan's eating lunch over here, Taylor's eating lunch over here. Which side are you going to join? John and Rodney. And Rodney and John are like, okay, today's Monday, so you go with Ronan, I go with Teyla. We switch every other day.
Joint custody.
Yeah. Like, if Ronan and Teyla being mad at each other would...
Oof,
the entire base would be walking on tippy toes.
Yeah.
No one wants to spar with either of them because they know they're just gonna be extra like hard on you.
You know, in movies when like two superheroes like finally fight each other, and there's this huge energy burst coming when like their fists get into each other or something like that. That would happen. It would destroy Atlantis, like literally. It could not stand the energy between those two. No, like the rivalry. Nope.
I noticed this little tidbit, right? And I was like, you know what? I don't care that it might not be what they're referencing. I was like, but I'm going to take it as an answer to our previous question, for last week. So, when Bates runs into the gate room, he's like, they placed something down right next to a gate. He says something. I think he says something. I don't know if he says light or not. But he says they placed something right next to the gate. And John goes, I've seen it before. He goes, they've tagged the planet. So I was thinking, what if it's the red light? What if we were right on the money? What if that's a tag?
Oh, yeah. I didn't make that connection. That's amazing.
Damn. We got
How
this.
long did we spend on that one question? We were like literally debating for so long. Like, is it a tag? What is this? And then
what does it
in a
mean?
1 second throwaway line, John's like, yeah, it's a tag. It's tagged what? We're like, okay.
Despite his numerous hiccups this episode, there were some really fun John moments. One of them was right at the beginning during the meeting with everybody where Rodney was like, we're scientists and you guys aren't going to expect us to like pick up guns and like fight the Wraith, are you? And John is like, scientists help change the tide of war, guys. Like, think about it. Like, think about the A-bomb. And Rodney and Zelenka look at each other and they're like, did not just say that. Like, the science's biggest regret. And you just cited it as an example of why we should be here. Like, please. And it also does some interesting foreshadowing to later seasons. Or season. I'm referring to Trinity, of course. I'm sure we will have much to discuss when that rolls around.
Okay, but also just to jump in really quick, I love when Rodney and Zelenka kind of bully John. They do this sometimes. Or like they try to make him feel stupid and like he gets so like he just rolls his eyes and it's so funny that like when Rodney and like Zelenka get like in their best friend mindset, they have to be like, okay, we're friends today. Like, they're so funny because they'll just bully everyone. And, like, they don't give a shit.
They, like, Voltron Transformer into the biggest, baddest mean girl possible when they work together. Like, I love their banter when they fight each other. It's great. But when they turn the mean
It's a
girl...
Regina George.
Yeah! Exactly. And they direct their fury at other people. It's just so great. And possibly the biggest shocker of the episode to me, outside of all this stuff, and I didn't even notice it. This is the first watch through I actually noticed. They mentioned that the Wraith want to take Atlantis so they can come to Earth, which I knew. But they said it was Sumner who had given them that information when he was being fed on.
That is so interesting.
And I was
because
like, what?
It makes me...
Yeah.
Yeah. Because, like, I know we've kind of, like, danced around it, but we've kind of been like, what's the timeline here, Like, has it been, like, I think at this point we can easily guess it's been definitely over 6 months, right? Maybe even, like, almost, like, more toward, like, 8 months, maybe? Since they've been here, right? But that's interesting, because, girl, how far away is their homeworld? Like, they're on the opposite side of the Pegasus Galaxy. Like, how far did it take for that news to travel to, well, I'm gonna now pretend that, like, our ideas are canon about the Wraith. That there's a council full of queens on the home planet, so I'm just gonna pretend that from now on. They can't stop me. So anyways, how far did it take for that queen to tell the other queens on her home world?
Right,
like,
because...
Earth was, yeah. How did it travel? Like,
they killed her, right? So she must have had to tell them, like, telepathically.
Yeah, but, yeah, I guess. I kind of think that goes along with how she woke them all. Like, they are... Also, I'm not sure she was a queen.
Oh, right.
It's some kind of like a guard or something.
Yeah.
And like because they killed her, she woke everyone else up.
Right.
And maybe with that went along this message that there's this place or even this whole galaxy. I don't know if they got that far or just that Earth has billions of people. Maybe it's some kind of, I don't know, primitive instinct or something, like, for them to like, okay, we have to go there now because we know there's food.
Right.
And we know that Wraith ship do need longer to travel because they can't stay in hyperspace for too long. So maybe the explanation.
That's true. That's true, because you're right. That would definitely add, like, at least, maybe an extra month or two. Right? Maybe even 3. Like, I don't know. Again, maybe they were, like, super freaking far away, like, on the other side of the Pegasus Galaxy. And maybe, like, if we're pretending that there was, like, a bunch of queens on a council on a homeworld somewhere, they would have sent, like, an armada. Not, like, 2 little Wraith ships. So maybe, like, when I'm gonna call her, should we call her the mother?
Yeah.
The
Why
guard,
not?
the mother. When the mother died, she kind of like she woke those people up, right? And maybe those people just got on their ship and came straight to Earth. Yeah, or so not Earth. Oh, sorry, Atlantis.
Also, didn't they first like the reason they want to go to Atlantis and to Earth is because they woke up too early and there's not enough food for them. So I think at first they were just kind of calling the places the known places, the known planes, whatever. And now that's getting, maybe that was good for like a few months, and then just more and more Wraith kept waking up. So now there's not enough anymore, and that's why they decided now to take on Atlantis.
Yeah.
Yeah, because
I
like
really just like the idea though. Oh, go ahead.
I was just gonna say they weren't supposed to wake up yet, right? So maybe like they didn't let the populations replenish as much as they usually do. So gotta find some more places to feed from, aka Earth and the Milky Way galaxy.
Woohoo!
Yay!
Definitely, because I mean, when we like have visited other planets, I mean, obviously like blah blah blah, real life like extras, blah blah, blah. But like it doesn't seem like there's like that many people ever. And again, like, you can say extras TV show, yeah, okay, whatever. But I like to say, yeah, exactly what Tora said, that they just didn't let enough time pass between callings. They were not ready. And to go a step further again, I just love the idea that like that planet or whatever, the mother's like wraith, that woke up. Maybe they just decided to take a fucking road. They're like, yeah, they're like, before we tell the queens, let's go to Atlantis ourselves and like see if we can find a way to Earth.
True. Interesting. I do love Wraith infighting.
Yeah. Maybe they thought it was gonna get them like a reward, like Queen's favorite ship.
Yeah.
Do Wraith name their ships?
Oh, they have to.
We talked about Wraith names at some point, right?
Yeah. They're great naming.
Yeah, what are they calling their ships?
Like, again, sticking with the cheesiness, I feel like they'd be like Midnight Star. Or like the star. Like, I don't know, like I feel like they would probably continue the very like earthy nature
Emo.
But the Destroyer.
The Star Destroyer!
Oh, speaking about the Wraith homeworld. Oh my gosh. Can you imagine what the Wraith homeworld would have looked like? And it would have been so cool because, you know how we picture Atlantis, right? Like, the Wraith homeworld would be like the antithesis, like the dark version of it, like that version of Atlantis, But, it's, maybe there is like some like ancient style, like Greek style, like structures, but it's been covered in like that weird, like slimy aquatic Wraith stuff, you know? And maybe they tried to imitate and try to do their own architecture, but it looks kind of just like fucking weird, like weird pillars that are shaped like a bit out of shape. And like, you know, red plants and shit. Like,
And the lighting is like purple gray, like it is on the Wraith ships.
yes.
Do you think that the, like, in this version that we created, is the Wraith home planet the planet where the Eratus bugs first infested humans? Is that the same planet? And it over the 10,000 years, or however long the time span is, they changed it, or the world just changed into their weird wraith shit?
Yeah, I like to think
I
like
love that.
they corrupted like the existing infrastructure and stuff, and they just made it. They wraithified it, just like being
because
there.
going off of what we learned in canon, it was what if it was like an Atlantis like lab, or like a second, almost like a second Atlantis almost. Like they had maybe those a few towers they had left there, and then
Amazing.
our minds,
Unparalleled, unmatched.
we're so cool. Okay, anyways, let's head over to Ash for the Bechdel test, which makes me very happy.
Pass with flying colors. Oh, amazing. There was, I know I don't have to talk about it every time, but in this case in particular, there was just, I noticed that a lot of the guest stars, like, were women. Kate, we had Kate Heightmeyer and Sharon.
Yeah, and then next up we have Tor with the behind the scenes.
All right. So this episode was written in part by Robert C. Cooper, and in an interview he had done regarding the episode, he had said that, and I quote, "We're actually just in the process of developing some backstory for the Wraith that kind of has them evolving as a result of the Ancients and their presence in the galaxy, and to a certain extent having the Ancients having brought some of the doom down on themselves." So I thought it was interesting that he explicitly stated that in an interview. And I like his wording there as well.
The whole doom thing.
Yeah. So, in this episode, it's discovered that the Wraith evolved after the Ancients arrived in Pegasus. The Eratus bugs seen in 38 Minutes are an ancestor of the Wraith. And the introduction of human DNA to the planet helped the creatures evolve into what we now know as the Wraith. So, in one of the Stargate novels, Stargate Atlantis Secrets, they proposed that the Wraith were actually an experiment by the Ancients. One they claimed was to give themselves an immunity to the Eratus bugs, but was actually an attempt at immortality, just in case Ascension didn't work. And I thought that was an interesting reason for them to experiment in that way, because I was always like, why? Why did you decide to mix these bugs with humans together? And I guess that would be a good way to explain it.
Damn.
Right? It ties into, like, the Ancients' hubris.
Yeah, absolutely, completely.
Yeah, I like that a lot.
I know, you know, the books are a hot topic.
Yeah.
Whether or not they are canon or not, and I think most people agree they aren't, but I will gladly consider this canon. It has been canonized.
Right? It's an interesting take, for sure.
Jumping Puddles podcast approved. We should get a stamp.
We should.
I would love that.
I would just put it on everything. Everything I own would just have a stamp. So, during the opening late night montage, Lieutenant Aiden Ford's room has a comic book, and on the cover, it has the likeness of Martin Wood. And this comic, called The Amazing Avenger, was created for the Stargate SG-1 episode Avenger 2.0, but was never actually used or seen on camera.
That's so cute.
Yeah, so they got to use the prop finally.
Also, yeah, Ford would be the type of guy. Him and John would bond over comic books.
Oh, totally.
Rodney would join in sometimes too.
Yes, Batman is his favorite, of course.
Oh my gosh, wait. I feel like Ford would be a Spider-Man kind of guy.
Oh, yep, totally. I can see that. What about John? Who would he like? I know he likes Batman, but like, would it be his favorite?
Good question.
I don't know.
Not Spider-Man because he doesn't like bugs.
Yeah.
I know spiders aren't bugs, but close enough.
You know what? I kind of I don't know if this would be his favorite, but I just feel like I don't know, I'm getting like Nightwing vibes.
Ooh.
Maybe just more of like they're similar, maybe less of him being as favorite.
Oh yeah, I definitely see the daddy issues being number one.
I was gonna say that he's pathetic, but yeah, that too.
That too. Kate Heightmeyer was introduced in this episode, and her first name was originally supposed to be Jane. It wasn't until Peter DeLuise pointed out to Robert C. Cooper that there is an actress named Jane Heightmeyer who starred in Gene Roddenberry's television series Earth: Final Conflict, that they then decided to change their name, or Kate's name, to Kate. I've never seen Earth: Final Conflict. I know it's science fiction, but that's about it. Any listeners, if you've seen it, please message us with feedback. Let us know if it's worth watching.
Please.
James Lafazanos previously played Jimmy in the Stargate Atlantis episode Rising, Steve in Suspicion and Poisoning the Well, and Mr. Hooper in the Defiant One. And he played what I'm assuming the writing staff colloquially nicknamed Gordon, because they never said, nobody ever named him Gordon on the show. I guess because he was in Teyla's Dreams only. Where did they come up with these names? Like, who?
I can't with the naming.
Why do John's boyfriends all sound so much older than he is? Her. The daddy issues jumped out.
Oh.
Girl.
Oof.
Bestie, what are you doing? Therapy, quick.
Oh, and there was a little bit of a goof in this episode. When Teyla is getting fed upon by the Wraith, and she fights him off to wake up and realize it's all a dream, if you look really closely, there are actually pieces of the Wraith's finger guard, like those things that they wear on their hands, lying on her bed. I'll take a screenshot and show you guys, but you can clearly see it. It's there. So they most likely came off like while they were struggling during the previously shot scene, and they just didn't even notice that they were in the shot. Oh, and we have an interesting different language title for this episode. In French, they called it Sous Hypnose. So that is under hypnosis in English instead of the gift.
Huh. Interesting.
It's kind of on the nose.
Yeah.
Under hypnose. I'm so sorry.
Okay, that was actually good.
Oh man. It's sleep deprivation. It kept you up for too long.
Probably, yeah.
Okay. Well, I don't know if we need to do ending do we oh god, this is gonna be such a long episode. Okay,
Episode
everyone
good.
say like 2 seconds. Yeah. Oh no, poor Tor has to edit this. Okay, everyone go around and say 2 seconds of an ending wrap up. Okay, just say quickly and then give a rating and then we'll go quick.
Oh shit, rating. I can't.
Okay, I'll go first. Upon rewatch, I really freaking love this episode. There's so much to it, so many good. Everyone gets a little good moment. It's so good. I love that they're on the base as well. I love base episodes. I'm gonna only give it a 9 out of 10. I'm gonna take a point off because I know that unfortunately this leads nowhere for Teyla's character. So point off for giving me hope.
I really liked this episode. I liked the centers around Teyla, that we learned so much about her, and also that there are lore drops. After discussing it with you guys, I just like it more because the parts that I kind of had an issue with kind of got cleared up, or just you shed a different light on it. So thanks for that again. I want to say 9 out of 10 as well, but I can't really reason it. So, but yeah, 9 out of 10 because it's
Reason
really,
enough.
really good. Yeah.
Let's see. Teyla, cool, fun, interesting. I like team dynamics. Cool horror elements. A+, 9 out of 10. For the same reason that Sam said. For giving me hope and taking it away.
Oh, we did it. Okay. Well, if you've made it this far, thank you so much to listening to the Jumping Puddles podcast. We had a great time, as you probably heard. And be sure to tune in next time for a special bonus-sode. Should we like say what it is, or should we just keep a surprise?
Ooh.
I want to say surprise.
Okay, we can do surprise.
Surprise.
Okay, we'll be dropping a surprise bonus episode next time. So yeah, look forward to that. And again, don't forget to hit us up on our social medias, which are linked in the description down below. Both the Jumping Puddles social medias and our own personal social medias if you want to see what we're up to and hit us up. Thanks for hanging out with us today. And we'll see you next time.
Oh, shit.
Bye.
Bye.
It worked out.
Shit.
All right, you clowns, listen up. I don't often get a chance to say this, so savor it. Good work, boys and girls. Let's go home.